mom is like so into this. She thinks it's so funny that she's like, you started this, you produced it, whatever. And she's like, I wouldn't really give her the specifics because I don't want her to like follow along with me. So she was like, is it that Ben Shapiro guy? And I was like, Mom, I'm not on a dating show with Ben Shapiro.
Imagine. I don't know if
like,
that's a compliment
like
or not, if I'm being
77.
compared to Ben Shapiro.
I was like, they're Jewish and Republican. So I think she just like tried to put two and two together. And I was like, that's a little out of left field, but.
That's funny. Imagine being on a dating show with Ben Shapiro.
The end goal isn't marriage, obviously, or a ring or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And like, at what point and what makes you weed people out?
The hard thing is that it's hard to really like get to know someone over like an hour of Zooming a week. You just go off like feelings. If it was in person, it would be a whole different story.
I don't know. I feel like if it's in person, though, I mean, we spoke about this last week. Like, you're only seeing everyone from here up. So, like, I think it's an interesting side to meet everyone via Zoom because it's not like you're getting the full effect. So you can't just like look at them physically and weed someone out because of that.
I definitely am making decisions not based on like who I'm attracted to and who I'm not. I mean, of course, everyone who I'm like bringing on to the next round, I'm attracted to, because why else would I bring you on to the next round?
Right.
But I'm not basing it off of like physical traits. I'm basing it off of like who I want to get to know.
John and I are buddies, so like naturally I have to keep going a little bit further because we're best friends.
My dad thinks you're absolutely hilarious.
Really? I don't know why.
Like genuinely, he does. Like he'll genuinely say that you're funny.
Yeah, which is weird to me. Like, which makes me a little more concerned to see like what the unedited version of that first video was, because I don't remember much of it.
No, but you are funny. I would say that you're funny.
Well, I think like comedy is just such a subjective thing. Like, I think I have like random funny one-liners, but like I'm also like have to balance that and like being overly annoying because I like attention. So like I like getting responses from people. But then I feel like you have the people who are just like so dry in certain ways that are like funny in that regard. Like I feel like your dad's sense of humor. I think your dad's hilarious, but I think his sense of humor is way different than mine.
Yeah, but like I think the thing at the end of the day is that you both have good senses of humor.
Right. We're both
so
10,
I think that
obviously.
I think that is like some people just don't really have a sense of humor, or even like I don't think I'm funny. Like I don't think that I say funny things, but I think that I have a good sense of humor. Like I think that I laugh at certain things. Like if people make fun of me, I'm like cool with it. I think that's funny. Like I'm light with when it comes to that stuff. A lot of people aren't that way.
Well, that's what's interesting too, is like I feel like with some of the relationships that I've had, because like I'm like my dad's like very outgoing, over the top Italian, and then like he likes to be like the center of attention in a lot of ways and like likes to chat it up with everybody. And I feel like this is gonna make me sound awful, but like I sometimes will like make digs at people like to get a laugh out of others, and then like I come across as like the bitch. Like I was gonna like when you first highlighted your hair, I was gonna be like, you look just like Lance Bass, and I was like, maybe I shouldn't say that. That's kind of mean.
No, but see, to me, like that's how I grew. Like I grew up, and you did that to like bond with people, and like that was how you can like connected with people and like strengthened relationships with my family. That's how I grew up. Literally, like with my dad would do that with us. I would do it with my brothers, and then with all my friends. That kind of stuff makes me feel more comfortable.
At least with my relationships, I'm sure you can like attest to like some of the closest people in your life are the ones you're like the meanest to.
Yeah. And so everyone who I've dated, now that I'm thinking about it, was always like very sensitive, would like get offended easily. And then so when they would come into the Bloom home and like be around the Bloom family, it was like it was just like a recipe for disaster. Like it just never worked. It was like oil and water. It just never connected.
I just feel like when you're walking around eggshells at the expense of hurting their feelings, like I don't tolerate that. I'm like, you're just a fucking pussy. Like
yeah. In my past relationship, I was very much not like walking on eggshells, but I just was like not 100% myself because it was just like easier for the relationship. Or I thought it was I just remember like starting the relationship and being like, oh, you got to be the best version of yourself, and you got to like do extra and go the extra mile and do all this stuff. And I remember like the first 6 months of our relationship, she was like, oh my God, you're the greatest guy I've ever met. Like you do go so out of your way for all these things for me. And then I got tired of doing that because that wasn't who I was fully. I was like doing it just to be like, just to impress her. And then I remember like a year into our relationship, I was not doing all those things because I was like, I don't need to do this anymore. And she was like, you've changed. You're not like, you don't do those
different
things.
Though. I think that's a little different because I think
feel like
that's like the honeymoon phase of any serious relation, or like, you don't know if it's serious until you get to that level, but like, I don't know. I think girls naturally expect like guys to do that for X amount of months. But then to your point, like you also have to reel it in and be like, I can't buy you flowers every day. Like that's a stupid comparison.
But I also feel like at this point now, and the podcast has only validated this for me, which has been helpful. Like at this point, I just know that like, I'm going to be 100% myself. I'm going to say what I think. I'm going to say how I feel. If I like am dating someone and that even if it's like a second or third date and they're like, I want to go to this restaurant and I'm like, I think I don't want to go there. I'm going to say, I don't want to go there. Where I used to would have been like, whatever you want. I'm going to do what I want to do now. And if the person likes it, then that's or the other way. If the person doesn't like it, then I'm good because I want my future wife to be someone that likes what I like.
But then I don't know. I just think you are in a special scenario because you want to make your podcast a full-time thing, which solely surrounds that concept of saying exactly what you want. So that's like your brand now. Like for someone who's like, I just got my first job and like one of the people I work with, she was in my sorority, but like she saw that I joined your live and was like, literally, like she took it fine and was like, what are you doing? And I was like, which is scary. I was like, if work finds out that I'm on like a generally more conservative like podcast or dating show, like that's going to potentially impact whatever future I get into. I mean, my friend says she's interviewing with Fox and she's like, I don't even know if I want to accept it because it's Fox and it's a great company, but like, how will that look to my next employer?
Isn't that fucked though?
Oh, it's so fucked. It's so messed up. So moving forward, where do you stand on being with someone who has different political beliefs than you do? Like,
I don't want to be with someone who has all the same beliefs as me. That sounds so boring and like unstimulating. I would be okay. I don't care what the beliefs of my partner are. Like if my partner is willing to, always talk with me about whatever, and it never gets personal because we're just talking about ideas and they change their mind about things, they get me to change my mind. I think that's great. Yeah. I don't want someone who's just like, doesn't have their own opinions and just thinks what I think. That sounds so boring.
Because I feel like I did the same thing with my last relationship, which I guess the thing that I learned from a last relationship is to not be that person again in that way. I think it was because it was like my first big relationship. So like I got caught up in college with it. But like, I don't know. I feel like that tends to be, I'd be curious to like ask your parents and you could ask them and get back to me. Like, do you think that time of like doing everything and saying yes to everything has to just do it, going back to that like honeymoon phase of wanting everything to go perfectly and then like someone taking advantage after X amount of time? I
honestly think it's like an immaturity thing. You don't have like the relationship experience yet to realize that it's not good in the long run. Because I remember after a year of doing that, I became so like exhausted in the relationship and just like started to get like resent her and get so annoyed because I was like, what the fuck? And then when I would like not, and then I set a bar so high that I could never achieve it. But then she expected me to be at that bar. And it was my own fault. It wasn't her fault.
People get used to the luxury of like having you around doing X, Y, and Z. And then, but the moment you don't, which sounds really like bitchy, but I feel like I said, has been a learning experience for me. It was like, I got so comfortable with him for like 2.5 years or whatever it was. And like, after a while, like I saw him, like we like hated each other by the end of our relationship because of like that dynamic. I mean, he was fed up. I mean, this is probably not winning me any brownie points as far as this game goes, but I don't really care.
No, I want you to be honest.
But I just feel like it's interesting because it's like you get so comfortable with a person and then, like you said, like you resent them after X amount of time. And then you become complacent, I think, on both ends, and you're just like too lazy to do anything or work into it. So it's like
totally.
Just hard.
Totally. No, I
Relationships are
agree.
hard.
Relationships are, they're
And now,
not easy.
now I'm on a dating show, so.
I never say that they're hard. I just say that they like are work. You just have to like it's a thing you have to do. And like it's not easy. Even like easy relationships take work.
Yeah.
But that's what makes things worthwhile. If something didn't take, like if you didn't have to like put effort into something, then it wouldn't be valuable.
All right. Well, I'll be in touch. It was nice talking to you.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for coming on. This was a good conversation. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, me too. All right. Talk to you soon.
All right. See ya.
I thought my one-on-one with Julia went really well. This week I was trying to get to know the women on a deeper level because up until this point, it was just sort of surface level, getting to know them, what their interests are, what they like, who they are as a person. But now I really need to go past that and see if there's a deeper connection, if there's compatibility, if it's someone that I could see myself being with. And so I went into this week with questions to get to the bottom of that. And my conversation with Julia with those hard questions was really interesting. It was great to hear her take on her past relationships, what she's learned from them. She asked me some awesome questions, so I really appreciated that. Because I feel like a lot of this process has been me learning about the women and not so much them learning about me because of the nature of it, which makes sense. So I'm glad that Julia really had an interest in getting to know me and my thoughts on things as well.
I just finished recording the podcast with my dad like 10 minutes ago, and it got like so heated that I'm still like coming off of it. It was
hair of a dog, make a drink.
Yeah, I honestly should go like I drank way too much last night to drink today again. Oh my god. We
and so you're probably hungover.
No, I don't get hungover. I'm good like that. I woke up this morning feeling fine. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all.
I don't either.
Like I went to bed last night at like 3 a.m. and I was like, I don't really even remember the Uber home. And I woke up this morning at 11 and I was like, okay, normal day. I feel fine. I felt fine all day.
Do you like chug water before you go to bed? Do you
I had like a glass of water and I just don't I don't know. It's honestly, it's like my superpower. I don't know what it is. I couldn't tell you why.
You have head hangovers and then stomach hangovers, and then the worst ones are when they're combined. That's really
I've never had a stomach
all day long.
What's that?
I just feel like it's all just when you want to like throw up.
Oh, see, I've never thrown up from alcohol. Never.
Oh God.
Never.
What?
Oh wow.
I know. I literally don't know how.
Passage to throw up.
Have you tried enough to throw up?
Well, that's also people don't. When I say I don't get hungover, and then people are like, well, you're probably just not drinking right. And I'm like, no, I'm drinking right because I don't get hungover. You're drinking wrong if you're getting hangovers and throwing up all the time. Like I finally, over the last month or two and last night, I'm feeling like, okay, I had my fun. Like I'm kind of starting ready. I'm being like getting ready to taper off the going out.
Oh, I'm already over it.
Yeah.
I don't need any more.
It's just like, it's so fun, but I also now, which I hate that I feel this way. Well, I hate and I love it. That like, I'll literally think, oh, I can't go out tonight because I got a lot of shit to do tomorrow and I need to like get it done. And I'm like, no, that's too adult of me to think that way.
When you have a good balance, it's like,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's like a Sunday. It's like thinking like, do I want to go out on a Sunday? I have work the next day.
Yeah.
I'm maybe like tired. It's
really
I never
like,
have to make that decision.
That shit is like, that's what is like life taking away the fun, like the real world taking away the fun out of our lives. Exactly. But then it's also like, it just also feels good to wake up on a weekend morning and feel good. Like, okay, I'm going to get some shit done. Like that also feels good.
I've seen people kind of live by like their planners, which makes a lot of sense. Or even this part where like on an Excel, like they create an Excel sheet for their life. How do you keep up with that so much?
Simone has her life planned out. Yeah.
I have my planner literally right here. I wake up in the morning and I make breakfast and then I like write down my 5 to-dos for the day, like my priorities. It really helps and you feel good. It does. I have like a little sticky note.
Yeah,
like, I do.
have sticky notes everywhere too.
I'm a list person.
I'm a list maker, but I wouldn't make an Excel sheet because also those things suck.
When I fight with my siblings, it's like, I don't want to see you for like the rest of the day. Go away.
Do you think that's like a girl thing? Not to be sexist.
Oh.
It's just like a you personal thing. Like Ruby, does your brother act? If your brother was in the argument, does he act like that as well?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay.
It depends on what we argued about, but
yeah, that was wrong. That was a generalization of me to say for sure. Because I'm just thinking in my family, me and my brothers, it'll be like a full on fight, yell, whatever, even like physical. And then the second after it's done, and it's like, all right, you want to go get food?
I would say usually though girls do hang on to it a little bit longer than guys.
I feel like
for at least a little longer.
We want to like get over it as fast as possible. And I've only ever been in one argument with my brother, and I literally texted him the next morning and I was like, we're good. Like, you still love me? Like, we're good. He's like, yeah. Because I hate like walking around and hanging out with that like feeling of being in arguments.
All my past relationships, I'll always try to resolve the argument as fast as possible. But usually on the other side of the relationship, it'll be like, I think it's over and then it's not over. And then like 2 weeks later, it comes back up. I'm like, I thought we fucking solved this. What do you mean?
So it's over for you.
Girls love to bring stuff back up. It could be a year later and they'll remember that one thing you did.
I think it can also be kind of healthy though, to like have opposing arguments and then for everybody to kind of get their point across. I think it can be kind of healthy. To an extent, of course. To an extent.
No, I agree.
Yeah, because you want to communicate. Like in a relationship, you want to communicate your feelings and you want to try to fix things when they're not working and all that, of course. And I used to be bad at that. And I've learned to like get better. I used to just keep it all to myself. Like if I was feeling something or whatever, I would be like, it's not worth it.
I used to keep everything bottled, and then one thing would just like set me off. That's not really what I was mad about. I was mad about like things that I'd never even talked about.
Right.
I'm so glad I grew out of that.
But then it's like, how the fuck am I supposed to know?
There's a sweet spot. I feel like when you get to know someone, you kind of do learn things that they like want or appreciate. And then the other stuff, it's like, I need to tell you like how I want this to be done in order for us to get along.
Yeah, I think it's also how much like you pay attention to like the details of it. Because like I used to just keep everything like to myself and like just forget it and then stay mad about something the rest of the day. And then the other person would just be like not even realize it. I think now if you just kind of like either pay attention to like little gestures or actually
but no, see, but Ruby, if you're mad, so you want like if you're mad at and your partner is unaware of it, you want them to just be aware rather than you telling them.
Well, pay attention to it. Yeah. If you can see if they're acting differently, then there's something.
See, but guys don't think like that in general. Like
guys don't notice anything. You could be like stomping around the house. And
I remember noticing that stuff. Like if my ex was mad, I'm gonna be like stomping around the house. I remember noticing it, but being like, okay, she's being a child. If she's not gonna tell me how she feels, then I'm not gonna play into her game. So I feel like that's what love is, when you're like, this is worth putting up with. Like the difficulties of this specific person, I'm cool with because the pros are so much better, you know, like that kind of thing.
There's a quote I really like, and it says, you like because and you love despite. And I feel like that's so true in a relationship. It's like, here are all the reasons I like you and I love you despite like these flaws or things that drive me nuts.
Yeah, I like that. Have you all ever been in love? For real? Like, would you say like, yeah?
No.
At the time, probably I thought I was, but now looking back on it, I feel like I haven't.
I think I have.
Right, so you think you have? That's how I feel.
Now that I look back at it, I was like, was it that really? Did I really just put myself through all this, or was it maybe in my head I was at the time? But no.
It's hard to like make the divide, I think, between like loving somebody and being in love with them, and like because you love your friends and stuff like that, but then when you're in a relationship and you love them, then I feel like you start to think you're in love with them. But now, like taking a step back, you're like, was I actually in love, or did I just like?
What does that mean? What's the
love
difference?
Them as a person. I think that like you love your family members and stuff like that. Like you love them, you more than like them, you know, and they mean something to you and you care for them. And obviously they can be super important in your life. But I think being in love is something that's a little more like passionate and has more meaning to it. And like,
it's just weird because there's no like definition, right? Like you think of it as one thing. Then when you're in it, you're like, I guess this is it. And you're like, I don't know. Because there is no like one.
I feel like
no
you can think that you were in love, but then if you were to meet another person, you could later on, and then like if you felt, I guess, deeper in love with that person, you could say, no, this is actually what it feels like being in love versus that.
Yeah, that's actually true. That could be a good comparison of like knowing you're in love with somebody is if somebody like a similar person that was just as great came along and you still chose that person.
Yeah, I definitely think like love is also, a lot of it is like a choice as well. Like you have to make a conscious choice to be like, okay, I'm going to like love this person. And yeah, I just always feel like when I've said like I love you to people I'm in relationships with, not like my family or friends. I've just said it because I'm like, I guess this is what I'm supposed to say, and I can't. I'm like, I care about, but I'm also like, I care about this person. So yeah, I guess I love them. If they said they love me, then I guess I do.
I just feel like you shouldn't say it because you're like, oh, well, they love me, so this must be what that is. Like if they're like, I love you.
But I don't know what it. But that's what I'm saying. Like I don't know what it is.
But I think
so I think you can say I love you, and like I was saying, be like I love you, like as a person, but maybe not as like a lover. If that.
Like if you feel lucky to be with that person, like you don't even want to spend like a day without them. Like if you're considering all these other feelings that you're having that are like external, then it's like, oh my gosh, like I must love this person if I don't even want to like think about them not being my life next week, or like, you know, something happening to me and me not wanting to share it with them first.
So thank you all
That's
for
a good question.
Participating in that, sharing your true feelings on love to a bunch of strangers, and to me and to each other. And yeah, and go enjoy the rest of your Sunday night or day, depending on where you guys are. And I'll speak to you guys later.
Great.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks,
guys.
everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
I thought my group date this week was great. I really enjoyed the group of women that was in it, and because I feel like I have a connection with each of them individually, it was great to see how it worked in a group. Good and bad. Like it was fun because I enjoy all of their company, but it also makes it a bit weird because like now that we're getting smaller numbers, there's a stronger connection with each of the girls than when the second week, you know, when I barely knew them. But we talked about some really great stuff. We talked about what love was, and I really appreciated that all the women had the courage and the ability to share their thoughts on those sensitive topics and intimate topics with the public, with you guys watching. So I really appreciated that, and I thought it was beneficial for me to know how they felt and vice versa.
What did you do today?
I slept, and then I got breakfast or like brunch, and then I hopped on Zoom. That's my day so far. But you've done a whole wedding today.
Yeah, I got up at 6:30 and I went and worked out, and then got ready and left for that wedding.
I love weddings.
Yeah, me too.
I love going to them. They're just so fun.
Yeah. And I've like literally been in 1,000 weddings, and it's always nice when you're like just a guest.
I still feel this way. Like weddings are such a waste of money, and like you're starting your life as a couple on this huge expense. Like why not just like save all that money and like whatever? But then it's also like, but that shit deserves to be celebrated as well.
Right.
Like, you want a party. So I'm of both minds.
I feel the same way. I think when I was younger, you used to like, I had this big imagination of this, like all these people and like everything, like my parents have a ton of friends and all this stuff. And then I get older and I'm like, it sounds nice, but at the same time, I almost just like it more
intimate.
Yeah. Just smaller group. My work is like real stressful during the week, and I kind of keep to myself on weeknights. Like I work out and I cook and like eat and chill. And so on the weekends, I like to do things. Like I don't really want to be like alone. I'm alone all week.
I agree. I love being with friends and going out and stuff, but I hate plans.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm a big planner.
Like my favorite thing is waking up on Saturday morning and being like, I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Like, I have no obligations to anyone right now. Yeah.
Around like where I live, I never ever saw a homeless person or anything, and now I'm starting to see it, and it's so weird.
But it makes sense. Like, of course, it makes sense that there are more homeless people, because it's just like people are getting kicked out of their homes. People, because they can't pay, because they can't get a job, because the jobs were all closed, and then now they're on unemployment. It's like it makes sense. It's like, of course there are homeless everywhere. It's crazy.
There are no lack of jobs around here right now. I can tell you that. Anybody that wants to be employed can be employed.
There are going to be like long-lasting consequences that none of us even realize yet for a while. It's scary. I don't know.
I think what's weirdest is like in early education, like the babies and stuff, they rely so much on facial expressions, and they get none of that. And because we have to wear masks. And so
really still?
Yeah, in the daycares we do. They've learned your eyes. Like they know when you're smiling just based off your eyes, or like,
wow.
And it's so weird. A lot of that, like the noises you make and stuff, and the way your mouth moves, like they recognize those things.
Totally. It's bad. I don't know. Yeah. It's like, what is this country going to look like in 10 years?
And in the beginning, they used to try and pull them. Now they don't even touch them. You know, like it's just a part of you.
Yeah, which is terrifying. Their like brain is forming all their neural like connections with that. Horrible.
Yeah. We had staff Christmas parties, and my dad used to have them. This is the first year we didn't do it actually, but because of COVID, they always were at my parents' house, which I always thought was insane, but whatever.
Yeah, wow.
Everyone would come from both schools. Like they were allowed to bring like a guest every year. Something was like, everyone should know their limit to that point.
Of course, especially coworkers.
Yeah, you're at your boss's house. You're
at your boss's house. Limit yourself to 2 drinks. That's it. Yeah. You're done. Yeah. Like no more than that.
You know,
I hate socializing with coworkers. Hate it. I'll never show up to one of those Christmas parties or like any event, like get together of coworkers. I'm out. Oh my God, that's my worst nightmare. I just like separating. Like I like having my work as my work.
Right.
And then my life outside of that is separate.
We do little like social nights randomly, like maybe like 2 a year, like happy hour things. And
I dread those. Dread them. Always make an excuse.
They love them because
people love them. Like the majority of people eat that shit up.
They get to go out and we pay for it.
Yeah. The majority of people eat that shit up. That's literally, like if I were to spend eternity in hell, one of my punishments would for sure be like happy hour drinks with coworkers. Oh my God.
So dramatic.
Especially happy hour drinks with coworkers after work. Like we just all left work.
Right.
And instead of me going home, I now have to spend more time with you. No.
I have really close family friends that have a ranch up north that I go to all the time. And I love kind of that escape on the weekends. I love going out there. It's one of my favorite places.
Yeah, that sounds nice. No, it's just like simpler. There's just no stresses. You just,
That's how I feel like when I go to Maine too. Like when I'm in Maine, I don't wear makeup. Like it's just like a simple life.
Just like back to basics kind of life.
Mm-hmm. Which
is great.
I enjoy. I don't think I would want to do it 24/7 though.
Totally. But that's why it's good, because it's like an escape from life.
Yeah.
But if that was full time, then you might like crave the things that we have now. Yeah. I think it's good to have a balance of both. That's like why people have summer homes and shit like that, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even something small. I mean, our like place up there, like it's nothing huge, which out in Maine on the lakes, none of those houses are really big, you know?
You don't want a big house. That defeats the whole purpose of being out there. Simplicity is underrated.
Yeah. They definitely all probably live a little longer.
Oh yeah. I think it's a good to have a balance. I want, when I'm older, to like live in a place where there's plenty to do and always things, but then also have a place where I can go and it's like,
yeah,
no one's gonna fucking bother me.
Now that my parents have this place, I'm like, I think when I get older, I think I want a place in the mountains.
Yeah.
So you kind of have like the best of all worlds.
Yeah. Like in the like place in the mountains near like a lake, I'd be ideal.
Yeah. It's nice to, I'm glad that we all talk. I think it makes it a lot easier on everybody.
Definitely.
So.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
I'll see you later. Have a good weekend.
Okay, you too. Bye.
I'll let you know my score.
Okay, bye.
Bree is someone that I knew a bit before this Bronchelor process. She was a loyal fan of the podcast. She was a Patreon member, so I was chatting with her over the last few months before this process started. So I was really glad to be able to get to know her on a one-on-one level outside of any podcast daddy issues content. And I think she's a great person. She's a bit older than the other girls, which I think is great because on the one hand, I think it's great because she has a maturity level that maybe some of the others don't. And I always found that because of her like life experience and things she's learned throughout the few years that she might have on some of the other women, that I found myself connecting with what she had to say in certain group date situations, which I really admired. Unfortunately, she is someone that I decided to send home this week, as well as Julia, because there honestly isn't even any good reason. Now that we're down to 7, it's harder to make these decisions because there's so few girls left. And so even though I have a connection with everyone and want to continue to get to know everyone, the fact that I'm being forced to narrow it down makes me have to choose between a rock and a hard place. And if it was different circumstances, it would be one thing. Like I honestly would want to continue to get to know all these women. Now that we had 7 left, I wanted to get to know all 7 for months. You know, that would make my decision a lot easier because I don't feel like I really get to know them well enough as well as I would like to. But that's not the situation I found myself in. So I was forced to narrow it down to 4, and I did that. So going into next week, we're down to Paige, Delia, Shayna, and Simone. And I definitely have a connection with all 4 of these women, and I look forward to getting to know them on a deeper level. And I also am dreading having to narrow it down even further because I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do. So with that, we'll see, I guess.